Today, a week after the story first hit, the BBC Director General George Entwistle apologised to victims of alleged sex abuse by Sir Jimmy Savile and promised to hold an internal inquiry after the police investigation. It comes as this programme has spoken to Savile's former BBC producer, who describes the lack of child protection procedures at the corporation in the 1970s and reveals that nobody from the BBC has contacted him, despite the fact he was Savile's producer for 21 years. And we've unearthed footage of the comedian Freddie Starr, who last week applied for an injunction to keep his name out of the story, appearing alongside Savile during that period, contradicting his comments last week. Porrick O'Brien has this exclusive report on the story and the allegations that will not go away.
When did public attitude start to change about Jimmy Savile? You may have said after the ITV documentary last week. You'd be wrong. In the 80s, Savile appeared on a BBC programme called Open to Question. It was hosted by a young Christian Guru Murphy.
Remind me of the subject matter. I thought it was a fun thing, but never mind.
A panel of teenagers asked him the questions then that if we could, everyone wants to ask him now.
Jimmy, you've never been married and you don't seem to have a very high regard of women. Oh. Do you feel that women are inferior to you, or are you frightened from them?
Don't you see intellectual contradiction in your tabloid claim of having sex in a passion wagon and your profession to be a devout Roman Catholic?
Oh, you must put the camera on this man. This man is the only person I know in the world who believes newspapers.
Clunk the car door and click the seatbelt. Clunk, click, every trip.
Another BBC show, Clunk Click, during the 70s with Jimmy Savile. Last week, a woman claimed that during the making of this episode of Clunk Click with Jimmy Savile, the comedian Freddie Starr molested her. She was 14 at the time. Freddie Starr said this wasn't true, that he'd never met her. He went on to say, "I've only met Jimmy Savile maybe twice. He came to see me with his mother at one of my shows. I always thought he was a flash. The other time was when he came into mine and my partner's men's clothing shop in Leeds. We were set in the shop and he walked past, looked in and then came in." But here's the thing. Channel 4 News has discovered that Freddie Starr had met Jimmy Savile a third time because Freddie Starr was a special guest on this episode.
That Freddie Starr would make a good parachutist.
But there's more. This is the woman who alleged that Starr molested her that day. She was interviewed last week and explained that she'd told her story to Newsnight, but that Newsnight had decided not to run the story.
I also told them that I was horribly, horribly humiliated by Freddie Starr, who had a very bad attack of wandering hands and had groped me, and I didn't like him because he smelled like my stepfather, and it frightened me and freaked me out. And I rebuffed him.
That was last week. This was Karen Ward when she was 14, on the set of Clunk Click, with Freddie Starr, during that episode. This doesn't prove that Starr molested Karen Ward. It does call into question what he said, though, about this incident. Separate to this, Jimmy Savile's producer of 21 years, including on this show, and Jim will fix it, spoke to us today.
Was child protection on your radar as an issue back then?
I have to say I don't suppose it was. It's an awful thing to say, isn't it? But no.
Are you surprised that nobody from the BBC has called you in the last fortnight?
I am a bit surprised, yes. I'm expecting, if there is this inquiry, that somebody surely is going to speak to me, both
because
on the BBC.
You were the go-between, weren't you, between Savile and the corporation? You were
Yes.
the linchpin.
Yes, I was the person responsible.
So if they were taking this seriously, you would imagine that somebody would have picked up the phone to you in the last fortnight.
Well, I'm expecting a call at any time.
Today, the Director General of the BBC spoke for the first time about the scandal.
We need a comprehensive examination of what went on here. But at the heart of what went on are a series of criminal allegations about the behaviour of Sir Jimmy Savile. Now, The way to deal with those is to make sure that the police, who are the only properly constituted authority for dealing with criminal investigations, are allowed to make the examinations and inquiries they need to make.
In the coming days, the Met Police will announce how many women have complained about Jimmy Savile.
Porrick O'Brien. Well, in a statement to Channel 4 News this evening, Freddie Starr's solicitor said, Freddie is now 69 and cannot be expected to recollect every show that he's appeared on and to remember every person that he has met. It would now appear from seeing footage of a Clunk Click show aired in 1974 that, in fact, Freddie was mistaken and therefore that he had, in fact, been on a Jimmy Savile show. However, this does not detract away from the fact that Freddie vigorously denies the awful allegation that has been made by Karen Ward, which, despite this footage, is still totally unsupported and uncorroborated by any other evidence. We did invite the BBC's Director General George Entwistle to talk to us, but he declined. Our offer remains open.